Good afternoon. So I am from the steel industry. That is, it has some unique characteristics as far as steel is concerned. It is highly capital intensive, perennially surplus in the world. Number three is energy intensive. Fourth is it also have carbon emissions, very high carbon emissions from the sector. When these are the characteristics, automatically there is a complexity in the business model, and our strategies should be structured in a manner or calibrated in a manner to address these characteristics which bring turbulences, which bring a lot of complexities in the industry. So if we are a 15-year company, so we started production with 1.6 million ton in the year 2000. Today we are 18 million ton company. We are the largest steel company in India. So once I said it is a capital intensive, the first point which we kept in mind in order to address the TCM aligning with our strategy, if we have to survive in this industry, first for every ton of installed capacity of the steel, the capital which you are committing should be the lowest. Then you will be very competitive. For the last 15 years, if you see the steel sector, people are investing, or competition is investing $1 billion, $1,000 for every ton of installed capacity of the steel. JSW Steel is unique in that sense. We are able to create this 18 million ton capacity at an average investment of $500 to $600 per ton. So relative to the competition, we have an advantage of 40 to 50% in terms of capital servicing cost. Because being capital intensive, if you want to be competitive, I think this is the first principle which we have followed. As I mentioned to you, there are a lot of turbulences. If I look at from 2000 to 2016, or I have been in the industry for over 30 years, every time it is interesting. Some new challenge goes on coming to the industry. In India, after liberalization, there are several private sector companies set up large capacities, all came together in the year 2000. Same time Asian crisis, so surplus capacity. Then China started growing, so huge amount of insatiable consumption of raw materials. So raw material prices went so high, all the profits from manufacturing of steel moved to the mining sector, another challenge. Then the global crisis. Then in India, iron ore mining ban, coal mining concessions cancellation, gas allocations withdrawal by the government, changes in the regulatory side, and now you are seeing demonetization. So these are the changes which are happening that has a huge impact on not only your cost, but also the profitability of the company. Therefore, strategically what we have done, once your capital is less in creating the capacity, that is not enough. You have to be profitable. You have to create more return than your cost of capital. You have to create more value to your customer. Then only you will be able to take something out of that value. What is that we need to do? One more very important point as far as JSW Steel is concerned, we have no control on raw materials. Iron ore and coal, we don't have any captive mines. So we have to buy those materials, produce steel, and then sell in the market. So the strategies then we have done, how to source your raw material, how do we use very low grade raw material with low procurement cost and achieve the same quality. This is the first strategy which we have put in. The second one which we have done, again steel is commoditized. How we will be able to move in the high-end value chain? This is the second strategy we have put in. That is why in the year 2000 when global crisis came in, then we thought we should not do commodity grade steel, but we should have high technology based steel making. That is why we entered into a collaboration with JFE Japan, and we got the technology for producing automotive steel, electrical steel, and also tin plate steel, different grades of steel. I am very happy to share with you. For the year 2016, World Steel Association, representing 85% of the world steel capacity of 2 billion tons, awarded JSW Steel for the innovation of the year 2016 for producing high-grade advanced steel for automotive sector. So you have heard in the morning Mr. Sumit was sharing with all of us how he has attempted to reduce the weight of the car by, by reducing the weight of the fasteners. But whereas JSW Steel is concerned, working in the supply chain to the automotive sector by investing in that, going in the high-end value steel making, we are able to today produce very high-end automotive steel with a very low weight and a high strength. So we moved into that segment. So one is capital less, number two is moving the high-end value chain, thereby you are not commoditized product. Third is when changes are happening in the marketplace, you produce that where you will be able to have high profits. For instance, demonetization happened now. This is again another turbulence. So when demonetization happened, the product which is most affected is the bar, TMT bar, which goes into construction. That means long products affected more relative to the flat products. If you see my November numbers of production which we released, our growth in flat products in the month of November was 71% compared to the last year. So therefore, flat steel is not affected. That means create flexibility in the business model. Thereby, whenever any turbulence comes, you will be able to change immediately to the changes which are happening at the marketplace. So change in the product mix, whatever is required, geographical mix. For instance, in the year 2008, when global crisis came in, JSW Steel was exporting 40% of its production. Then suddenly global markets melted, there was no demand. Then we had to shift immediately to the domestic market. Then we went into retail. If I look at the next 2 years' time, our retail sales today is 26% of our total sales, and we brought down our export sales to 12%. Therefore, whenever changes are happening in the marketplace, how quickly we will change, strategically aligning with the changes in the marketplace, geographical mix, product mix. This is the second focus which we have done in JSW Steel. The next one which we have done is the raw material procurement, because we have to buy the entire iron ore and entire coal. So coal, instead of buying from Australia, for instance, we were buying in Australia 8-9 years back, entire requirement. Then in one particular year, there were cyclones, thereby the entire supply chain got impacted. We were not able to procure. Then we immediately diversified our source of procurement. Now we buy from 17 countries. And different types of coal, because there is always a resistance whenever you want to use different grades of coal. Technically, it is not possible. So first you have to change that mindset that technologically it is possible. We should do experimentation and establish a technological process to achieve the same quality of the coke when you buy from different sources. So now we have become expert in that area, that procuring coals not only from Australia, either South Africa or Canada or US or Mozambique, any other place. Now we have a source which we will be able to capture. Just to give an example, again today there is a perception that in Australia there are 11 cyclones going to come from now to the March. So in the last 1.5 months, coking coal prices went up from $100 to $300 per ton. So if you want to procure coal from Australia today, you have to pay $300. But if you go for inferior variety of coal from, let us say, Mozambique, it is $175 per ton. So JSW is able to procure even from Mozambique and replace part of the coal. You may not achieve the same quality of the coke. Productivity may get affected. Cost may slightly go up, but it doesn't matter as long as you are able to get margin better than what the otherwise you get from Australian coal. It's another change which you have done. One important point I would like to highlight here in the case of iron ore. So we were procuring iron ore entirely from Karnataka. Suddenly in the year 2011, Supreme Court banned the iron ore mining. So we didn't have any iron ore available to run our plants. It is the largest blast furnace which we have set up in the state of Karnataka. Then we have to come out of that problem. So we have to find an answer in the next 1 week time. So how do we do it? But one proactive step JSW Steel has taken is that instead of buying a very high grade iron ore, if we can set up a beneficiation plant, we can buy even 50-55% low grade iron ore and we can reduce our cost. So we invested 1,000 crores of rupees and set up the beneficiation plant in the state of Karnataka. So when the mining ban happened, then we went around and found out very low grade iron ore which was staked in various mines, which mining companies were not able to sell. then we could procure that iron ore and run our plants without any difficulty. So proactively thinking how to reduce the cost helped us when the turbulence came in the year 2011. So this is how we are able to manage our total cost management by strategically thinking either in terms of growth or in terms of product mix or in terms of geographical mix or in terms of process. If I am able to procure raw material, if I am able to sell, then in between cost, which is there, that is called conversion cost. In this, there are 6 or 7 elements of this cost. We are the world's best. If somebody gives me iron ore and coal, I will be able to convert that into finished goods at $115 per ton. So again, the World Steel Dynamics has ranked JSW Steel as number 1 in terms of conversion cost in the world. So these are the uniqueness which we have created in JSW Steel. That is why, in spite of so much of distress today in the steel sector, JSW Steel is one of the profitable companies even in these difficult times. We went through the TCM model of CII. We are very thankful to them. In fact, what is very relevant when you go through the model, I think every company should go through this model, is that not only to know the strength of the company, but also they highlight where we can do further improvements in order to get the benefits. One of that I will give an example. When we were explaining to the committee that we can accept an order from 5 tons to 50,000 tons, then they asked us, do you have any system of measuring variety cost? Do you have any system? We didn't have. So that is again one input which came from them, that we should introduce variety cost. When we have so many varieties which we take, because when I wanted to export, when I say that I am able to shift from exports to domestic or domestic to exports, we have enough flexibility which we created in the system. So I have different types of mills where I can produce starting from 0.15 to even 1 mm. So different grades I can produce. I can accept different small size orders. When we say what is the cost of that making, have we built in? This is one input which is very, very helpful to us to make improvements in future. They also asked us to see branded products. We talked about so much about branded products. When we say branded products is giving me to reduce the volatility, then what is the cost of branding? How much we are spending? What is the cost of that? I mentioned to you the characteristic of steel industry is carbon emission. Are you valuing the cost of these carbon emissions? So these are 3-4 items which has come. So target costing is another area which inputs have come in from the committee. We are very thankful to them. I think it will help us to improve further. Thank you very much.